Hey guys, this is Boost Hungry here, playing a game called From the Depths. This game is available on Steam as early access. So if any game is suitable for the early access model, this is it. This game has a lot to it already. There's a sandbox where you could basically build a ship like in Minecraft, except you can then take it and blow up other ships as you see in the background here. There's also a campaign, which seems kind of in-depth. It's open. It's kind of like a freeform open world kind of thing. I believe there's multiplayer as well, as you see here. I don't know how in-depth it is right now, but there's clearly some areas where they could take this game even further, so that's why it's kind of in early access. I've put about 60 hours into this game so far, which is just enough to kind of get me by to learn some of the basics. So I'm going to make a video about my first real attempt at the campaign. Previous attempts have been just kind of like a learning task. But before I do that, I wanted to make a video to show the three main designs that I plan to jump into the campaign with. So let me jump in and pull up the designs. Actually, before I do that, let me pull up the design that the game gives you if you were just when you start the campaign. The Rapier is the ship that you start with. I thought this was a pretty good ship, but there are some videos out there that will tell you to delete this right away, but I learned quite a bit from playing around with this. I was able to go and defeat the early AI with this ship, so I thought it was pretty effective. There's a giant cannon on the front and 8 rocket launchers near the rear. One thing to note is there's a shield emitter attached to the barrel of the cannon, so as the cannon rotates towards the enemy, you will have a shield projected in that direction. But you can't actually attach a shield generator to a barrel, from what I've known. So what you do is you attach supports to the turret and pull them out to the end of the barrel. Place the shield emitter where it would be attached to a barrel, and then destroy the supports, and then you will be left with a floating shield emitter. And I say floating because it's not actually, you'll see, it's not actually attached to the barrel, it just happens to be in that direction. But it still has the same effect. I consider this a little bit of an exploit, but again, this is the ship that they give you to start with, so if they say go for it, go for it. Another thing that I learned from this is the ability to use stone as a base of a ship. Stone is like a more expensive wood. It doesn't use any metal resources to build, so it's really good at the early part of the game, in the campaign, where you don't have a ton of metal resources or to make like lead or something heavy to weigh down the bottom of your ship. Also, this uses 2 huge propellers in the rear and 1 huge propeller in the front, which would generally be way more power than a ship this size could handle, except for the fact that they cleverly use hydrofoils to help stabilize a ship. But let me pull up my model before I get too deep into that. So let's destroy everything and pull up my first craft, which I cleverly named Starter. Yes, a very creative name, I thought. So, let me warp into. So I went with a similar design, a nice small ship, replaced a single barrel with 2 barrels, added in 6 heat-seeking missiles in the front, and went with 12 laser-designated rockets in the rear. So before I get into the armaments, let's take a look at the craft. I went with the same 2 propellers in the rear, 1 propeller in the front, same stone bottom, and if I accelerate to full speed, you'll see I can go about 18 to 20 meters a second. Seems like I'm going much faster than that right now. Must be good weather. So it seems pretty stable as well, which is good. The way I've achieved this is with the hydrofoils. So with these hydrofoils in the back rear corner, if I were to leap out of the water, this would be the last section to do so, so it allows me drag for as long as possible. With these 2 hydrofoils pointed up, it attempts to twist the front of the ship down, while I also have a hydrofoil on the front, which is angled down, which tries to pull the front of the ship down while it's submerged in water. What this does is it gives me a nice skimming effect. A lot of my ship can actually leave the water, which will reduce the drag, while my propulsion systems remain underwater to continue to apply force, which is a really great effect. And this is something I learned from the Rapier and have correctly translated to my own ship. So that's the propulsion system. Let's dive into the interior of the ship. In the front, I have my 6 heat-seeking rockets, as I mentioned. I have an infrared seeker attached to these, and a one-turn. The one-turn allows them to head in the direction of the enemy, which that will then allow the infrared seeker to then lock onto something. Behind that, I have my the bulk of my main turret, which is protected by the hull of the ship. And then beyond that, I have my AI mainframe with a selection of cards, some of which are customized, some of which are not. And I have my steering wheel, a couple automated controllers, which are just doing the basic function of turning the shields on and off when an enemy is nearby. If there's one thing you can use to get into and start using these automated things, the shield control is one of the easiest. From there, you can kind of get the hang and start doing some of the other controls. So that's what I started with the shields. Behind that, I have my laser designator rockets, which use the laser designator receiver to go and hunt enemies that my lasers are targeting. And of course, an engine. So one thing I will call out with regards to the AI is I've adjusted the naval movement. And this is pretty good. One great thing is it actually reads you a plain English paragraph of what you set above. So I've set the broadside within 900 meters, enter broadside. If 1250 or above meters, enter into broadside, which means I'll try and approach the target. My broadside angle would be 80 degrees, so I'll try and kind of go on an 80-degree angle from the target. And you can kind of see all that here. Below 900 meters, engage with a broadside at an angle of 80 degrees. That's what I just said. Above 1250 meters, turn to close in the target again, so it'll start to approach the target. When broadsiding, do not allow them closer than 600 meters. So if they get within 600 meters, my ship will turn around and run, which it's really good at doing. It's fast. The object of this ship is to kind of stay away from the enemy. I can attack at range with my cannons and my missiles, and I don't really want to be right next to the targets. I've adjusted the AI locals a little bit as well, setting a max range, setting a minimum range, and adjusting a couple other things. But for the most part, I've only just started to mess with some of the AI, and it's been nice to actually be able to let my ship fight its own battles without having to worry about controlling direction and everything like that. So this is the only combat craft I plan on playing the campaign with to start with. I've played about an hour or so with the previous crafts and with this craft, and I haven't found anything that can challenge me more to a point where I'm going to need bigger. I also haven't had enough resources to build anything bigger. So other than this craft, I also have a basic fortress, which will be a replacement to the fortress that you start with. Oops. So this is a very trimmed down version of the fortress. The fortress that I gave you is very resource heavy, and if you scrap it, you can get a ton of resources from it. If you've watched any other videos, basically everyone says get rid of the starting fortress. All I have here is an engine, 8 resource collectors, 8 oil drills, and 2 crystal farms with 6 crystal trays. I actually don't know if this is optimal. I read some things online that say 6 to 10 resource collectors and oil drills is good, something like 2 to 4 crystals. So this seems good. It seems effective in the little bit I've played. It's very basic. It doesn't use a whole ton of resources to build, and it does its job. So I have another variation on this, which is basically the same thing, but with a dock attached to the back. So on the back here, it's everything the same, except I have a bunch of tentacles, repair tentacles in the back, and a stop moving AI. And I have a docking station. What this will do is allow me to hold a craft anywhere from like 25 to 100 meters off the ship, and my repair tentacles will then build it. So what I like to do is jump off, load it in a constructible, repair tentacles will start building it, come in, grab the dock, and hold it in with the tractor beam, and maintain it in place while I build it. So this is it. The reason I have two versions is because these repair tentacles use a lot of crystal to build, and early in the game you don't have a whole ton. So I don't want to have to spend the crystal every time I want to build a resource collector on a resource node. So the two different variations help me with that. I'll probably have my first one with the docking station, and then as the game progresses, I'll build other fortresses for resource collection, and I will build mobile factories, ship factories, which I have here. Like I mentioned, I only have the one combat craft, and my other designs are just purely logistical. Go away. Turn off the AI, because the AI is bad. Well, not bad, but weird. And I have my building craft, which is very similar to my combat craft. I'm using the same design of the propellers in the front and propellers in the rear. Because this craft is so light, there's not a whole lot to it. It was much more difficult to get stabilized. I used 2 hydrofoils in the front and 2 hydrofoils in the rear, and I had to worry about center of gravity a lot more with this, because it was either wanting to take off into the sky or it was wanting to nosedive into the water, and it was very hard to find a medium ground. What you want to do is place your hydrofoils, and then you want to, in order to get them into a correct angle, you want to build a complex controller, set up all the controls on the various components, and then do some testing and some fine tuning. Once you have it the way you want it, just delete the complex controller and your components will stay where they are. If you were building something more dynamic, which like a submarine, you'd want to leave the complex controller so you can like go up and down. Also note that the further your hydrofoils are from the center of gravity, the more effect they have, I believe. So if I were to like put these hydrofoils forward more, they would work to nosedive my craft more. So I actually had to move them back at points to get them closer to center of gravity, so they weren't as effective, which helped me to kind of balance it out and get some kind of middle ground. It's not perfect, but I'm happy with 19 to 20 meters a second, and I'm not like riding the waves too bad. Nosediving a little bit, speeds jumping from anywhere from 13 to 20, but I can live with this. So I have the docking station here. I can actually spawn something, lock onto a tractor beam, and then go at full speed while building it at full speed. So I can actually tow something behind me while building it. So that is the only crafts I plan on playing the campaign with. I will show you one more. I was playing around with some other designs. I have my medium armored ship, which is, compared to the others, is very heavily armored. I'd almost consider this like a destroyer class ship. This is a much more expensive craft, in that it's made of metals and alloys. And is much larger, although not as large as some other things I've seen in this game so far. So yes, this is very heavily armored. I have my 5 propellers in the back, although even with those 5 propellers, my max speed is nowhere near what my other crafts were. I have 2 forward-facing cannons and 2 turreted cannons in the rear. These were some of my early designs, so they're not the most elegant looking. But I spent some more time on the interior of this craft. I have my bridge configured. Behind my bridge is the guts of my forward-facing cannons. which go back quite a ways. I have this metal container here, which actually houses my AI. And in the back, I have my nice little ramps here, which unfortunately you can't actually run up a ramp. The game doesn't know how to climb things. You have to jump. And then in the back, I have my engine room. You keep hearing that splash, but it's just the game not knowing I am actually buoyant in these rooms. The game just does that every time you go from one buoyant area to another. I have some ammo rooms, ammo processors, and some more of those on this side. And I can actually just go completely out of the ship on the sides. So I thought that was pretty elegant. It's kind of nice that everything is nice and low protected. And some basic tests against AI Craft in the Designer. This ship does pretty well. But knowing what I know now, I think I could make some improvements on it. But that's basically all I need to explain for the campaign. So my next video will be diving into the campaign on my first attempt to go as far as I can and hopefully see some crafts that are going to give me more of a challenge than the ones you see within the first couple zones. So I hope you tune in and hope you enjoyed.